Effects of rapid population growth. To what extent do environmental issues caused by rapid population growth negatively contribute to the health of citizens in developing countries? Between 1900 and 2000, the world population grew 3 times larger than any previous era of humanity, an increase from 1.5 to 6.1 billion people. The population growth rate in Africa from 1990 to 2000 was 73.3%, increasing their population from 186 to 856 million people, towering over the growth rate in the United States, which was only at 22.5%. Just by looking at these facts alone, it is obvious that rapid population growth is much more elevated in developing countries in comparison to already developed ones. In agreement with this statement, Mark Montgomery of Stony Brook University states, during the period 2000-2004, the world's total population is projected to grow by 1.76 billion persons, with some 86% of this growth expected to take place in the cities and towns of developing countries. Although most population growth takes place in developing countries, it still affects every aspect of the world as we know it because it is still common in already developed countries. This leads us to my thesis, which is environmental issues caused by rapid population growth in developing countries sanction for more easily contracted diseases and the destruction of natural resources, but it can also allow for the growth of the economies in those countries. Deforestation rates are increasingly rising due to rapid population growth. As you can see in the chart, as population increases, so does the number of forests being destroyed, which is measured in billion hectares. Margaret Thatcher, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, said in her speech to the United Nations that every year an area of forest equal to the whole surface of the UK is destroyed, and by the year 2000, 65% of forests will have been removed. If deforestation rates keep rising at this steady rate, the number of forests left on this earth will soon be slim to none. According to Bill Butts, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Population Reference Bureau, developing countries in Africa and Asia will account for almost all of the increase in world population between now and 2050. This rate of population growth, especially in developing countries, is holding the rest of the world back from stabilizing fertility rates, let alone decelerating them. By stabilizing fertility rates, the environmental issues caused by rapid population growth will start to dwindle. This chart clearly shows how much higher fertility rates in Africa, in yellow, are in comparison to other major world regions. This chart also predicts that by the year 2050, fertility rates will have declined and stabilized. A solution that will make this prediction stay true is to institute more family planning into the citizens of developing countries. I will go more depth later in my presentation. Rapid population growth comes with many side effects, including diseases, malnutrition, and famine. These are most common in developing countries. As stated by the World Health Organization, malaria kills over 1.2 million persons annually, mostly African children under the age of 5. Poorly designed irrigation and water systems, inadequate housing, poor waste disposal and water storage, deforestation, and loss of biodiversity are all causes that can be traced back to rapid population growth. Non-communicable diseases, NCDs, are diseases that cannot be directly transmitted from person to person. These diseases kill 40 million people globally each year, and 31 million of those people, of those deaths, come from low and middle income countries. The NCD burden will increase in the next 10 years globally by 17% and in Africa by 27%. 2 billion of these people lack access to essential medicines for NCDs and other conditions. Another effect of rapid population growth that is just as harmful, some might even say worse than malaria and NCDs, is malnutrition. According to Don Hitchington, author of many books and articles about the development of people and environment, more than 840 million people, disproportionately women and children, suffer chronic malnourishment. Each year, about 18 million people, mostly children, die from starvation, malnutrition, and related causes. 18 million people dying each year from malnutrition is way too high of a number. This number needs to decrease so the amount of children looking like this can decrease. Although rapid population growth has mostly pessimistic consequences, a growing population can allow for advancements in the economies of those countries. Higher rates of urbanization lead to higher urban accumulation, which means that as more people move into the cities, the more money that goes into that economy. This chart shows that between 1970 and 2010, as the world population increased, so did the world GDP. Although more urbanization can lead to improved economies, many citizens don't realize this. Many citizens don't have enough money to support their families, let alone put funds towards a cause that might not have a solution until they have passed. According to the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago, in many instances, the immediate need to put food on the table outweighs all of the benefits an individual could get from the efforts, to reduce pollution. While many people in developing countries are aware of the environmental issues of rapid population growth, they aren't able to do anything about it. This leads us to the solutions to this problem. We need to decrease fertility rates and population growth in developing countries. To achieve this, the most reasonable solution is to institute more family planning to the citizens in developing countries, as I mentioned before. Educating men and women in developing countries alone could have a huge impact on the rate of population growth. According to the peer-reviewed journal, Macher Institute, family planning programs allow women and men to control their reproductive lives, thus improving their family's welfare and benefiting their country's economy and environment. Even though family planning could improve the economy and environment of those countries, the cost of it might be higher than some families are willing to pay. Along with the cost, another limitation is that most citizens have no idea how family planning works, so they have no prior knowledge to base their new knowledge on. In conclusion, in order to decrease rapid population growth in developing countries, we need to stabilize fertility rates, which can be done by initiating more family planning programs into the lives of citizens in developing countries.
Okay, a couple of questions for you, Anna. The first one is, what information did you need that you were not able to find or locate, and how did you go about trying to find that information?
Information that I would have strengthened my argument would have been to focus more on one African civilization or city that is mostly affected by our population growth.
And then how did you go about trying to find it?
Oh, once I found out that it was mostly in Africa, I tried to search through the sources that I found. I tried to narrow it down to find specific locations.
Okay, and then your second question is, what advice would you have for other researchers who consider the same topic?
Advice I would have is to narrow down their research before they started, because I changed my research question in the middle because my research was so broad that I had so much of it. So I narrowed it down to just Africa, and that made my research